Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast for this bonus podcast episode 102, coming at you on Thursday of all days.
We are 3 days early.
So we had some big news come out today. I'm Jason and that's Neil, by the way.
Hello.
The NHL has canceled, or not canceled. Terminology is important here. It has suspended.
It is not canceled. It is suspended.
And suspended is actually an aggressive word for it. I'm surprised they didn't use the word pause. I wonder if the NBA did not come out first, if they would have said we are putting our season on hiatus, or we are pausing or we are postponing our games, or pausing our games. But to say that they're suspended is kind of aggressive.
Yeah,
in nature.
Suspended is, I don't know. I got a cringy joke for you before we get in. Okay.
Oh, no. Wow, look at that.
Coronavirus. Suspended. 4 weeks for holding the NHL up.
All right, here we go. If you had to bet $50 over and under on 4 weeks.
I am in the strong opinion that we will not have a conclusion to this season.
I am too, 100%.
This season, in my opinion, will be canceled, and we will not see another NHL game until the beginning of the 2020-2021 season.
I'm actually with you there, and I kind of wish I wasn't, but I am.
It is the worst case scenario, other than missing the 2020-2021 season as well, but I truly believe that just in the past 48 hours, it is completely snowballed. It's getting out of control. There are so many things canceled, not just within the world of sports and leagues. There are, like, the Junos were just recently canceled, E3. Mm-hmm. There's things being canceled to up until July. Like starting in July, there's things being canceled, and things in August being considered to be canceled. That's like 5 months away from now, or 4 months away from now. Mm-hmm. In the middle of summer, approaching fall, approaching September, when kids are going back to school, and it's pretty crazy. It's half a year away, and there's already things being canceled. So, and at that time, we're approaching the beginning of the next NHL season. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It's funny because we just talked about this like 4 days ago on Sunday morning.
Literally. There's a bonus video on this channel specifically of the conversation of us talking about the coronavirus and the what ifs.
And we specifically say in it that it's nice to have this conversation a bit early so that we can look back on it to see how things may have changed. And literally 4 days later, the NHL is canceling I gotta stop saying that word. They're suspending their season.
They did mention that they do want to try and award the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. So they have approached teams, and you can, I guess, read the statement.
Yeah, I got the statement here from Gary Bettman himself. Well, he didn't hand it to me, but
that man right there.
It says, in light of ongoing developments resulting from the coronavirus, and after consulting with medical experts and convening a conference call of the Board of Governors, the National Hockey League is announcing today that it will pause the 2019-20 season beginning with tonight's games. Which, that's the language I would expect is pause. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna put it on hold, and hopefully, if things get better.
Pause is not a negative or a positive term, where suspend has more of a negative vibe to it.
Yeah, suspend is like
you're being punished.
Yeah, it's like a lockout's coming, or the players aren't doing what they want, or It says the NHL has been attempting to follow the mandates of health experts and local authorities while preparing for any possible developments without taking premature unnecessary measures. However, following last night's news that an NBA player has tested positive for the coronavirus, and given that our leagues share so many facilities and locker rooms, it now seems likely that some member of the NHL community would test positive at some point. It is no longer appropriate to try to continue to play games at this time. Now, I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that the visitor locker room was shared between sports. I thought there was a different shared... I don't know why I thought that either, because it makes no sense to have a different shared locker room for hockey and basketball. Like, obviously, the home teams, like the Toronto Raptors and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they have their own locker room that's their own, right, all the time. But the visitor locker room for each of those sports is actually shared between...
I never really thought about that.
Yeah, I guess that's maybe why I didn't know that, because I just never really thought about it either.
And even if they did have their own separate locker room, the media still has access. I mean, they don't now, and they didn't in the past week, but before that, they did have access. And all the media go in the same places as the NHL media go. So there's going to be cross-contamination at so many points in the arenas and facilities. So, and
excuse me, the Tampa Bay Lightning were following Utah actually in their visiting locker room. So the player that tested, what was his name?
Gobert or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Anyway, So I could talk about him for a couple minutes too.
Yeah, and there's been another player on the Utah Jazz that's been confirmed.
It's just, I didn't think when we had this conversation on Sunday we'd be here now. I thought games without fans.
Yes.
I thought maybe relocation. I didn't see a suspension coming.
No, I think it's a conversation that we probably in the back of our minds suspected that we might have, but maybe not for another couple weeks at the earliest. And we're 4 days after our recent podcast, which really does feel like yesterday to me. I can't believe it's Thursday.
Yep.
And here we are talking about the NHL season being canceled. Now, this isn't the first time that a season's been canceled or something. Back in 1918 or 1919 or whatever, when the Spanish influenza went through, they canceled the season and they did not have a Stanley Cup playoffs, to my knowledge. So it's not the first time, but it's also not the first time that we've had a short season in recent memory because of the lockout in 2012, 2013, or whatever year that was. So I still have hope that there's time to maybe have a Stanley Cup playoffs in some fashion, whether that's all in the same rink with all the same players in the same facilities and with no fans, or if this thing gets wrapped up somehow quickly, miraculously. I still have hope, but realistically, this season's over.
Yeah. There's so many things this affects.
Yeah. Did you see what the World Health Organization and the Canadian government announced with the vaccine? At earliest, 18 months.
Wow.
18 months to 2 years is the earliest projection for them. So, I mean, based on that, it's going to be a very intense next 12 months for everybody, regardless of what country. If you're watching in Switzerland, it's going to be an intense 12 months for you, just like it is in every other country. So
what a lot of health officials now, like we'll stick to the sports on this, but what a lot of the health officials are trying to do is basically you have that curve, right? And they're saying that a high amount of people are getting sick very quick.
Yeah.
And it overruns what the medical people are capable of handling.
Exactly.
Like if you look at Italy right now, you've got doctors and nurses and they're like basically in tears because there's 3 people in front of them and they have to pick the 2 people that are going to die.
Yep.
Because there's not enough
literally
to handle it. So what they're trying to do is get the public's health in self-quarantining or not going to big events or just, keeping your distance from other people so that instead of having a curve of people spiking like this, it's flattened a little bit so that the healthcare system has enough time to have people get in and out and have the next people run through.
People are going to get sick. It's inevitable. They're just trying to make sure that they have the facilities to help everyone who does come in that's sick. I mean, if it comes to the point where we have to self-quarantine, whatever, the thing is going so quickly, there's probably a pretty good chance that we'll get it eventually. But if things just stayed the same, there would have been a greater chance that we would get it next week or then a week after, and then we would be at the hospital with everyone else. So it is really smart what they're doing. It's just unfortunate, obviously.
And some countries are like Italy are just locking everything down now.
Dude, you can't like if you want to go from one part of the country to the other, you can't.
Yeah. And
I have a feeling, based on what I've been told with some people who work for the government, that the Canadian-United States border will be closed. I don't know how soon, but I mean, it's feels like an inevitability at this point.
That's almost what you have to do, though. And you have to shut everything down. Otherwise, it's just going to keep spreading. And then once you get it contained, then you hope you move on from it.
Yeah. What else do you do? You can't just live your life normal. It's not about you. It's not about me, the average person getting it. It's about us getting it and then giving it to someone who can't handle it, like an elderly person or someone who's already ill. It's not really about the regular person. If we do get it, there's a 0.2% chance that we're going to die. That's a pretty decent survivable chance. But
when you start talking mass numbers, that's a lot of people dying.
It's huge. It's an insane amount of people. And it's an unacceptable amount of people.
Yeah, like you think of like 9/11 and the thousands of people that died in 9/11, and then if you start adding up all these numbers of people that are dying from this, and a lot of it is negligence because, like, I have a beef, and I'm probably going to get heat in the comments for this maybe. But I have a beef with the people on like Twitter and Discord who say everyone's overreacting. This is dumb. This is an attempt to affect the United States election. This is just Democrats trying to like what are you talking about?
And I think that's part of it, though. They don't understand the implications of they're like, just give it to me and I'll be fine, whatever. But they're not thinking of the second step.
That's right.
If they give it to someone else, if they give it to their grandmother or someone who's already ill with Crohn's or whatever other disease that's going around that, or not that Crohn's goes around, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's scary. Like, you could literally kill your grandmother unintentionally.
And that's what, see, last night when I was on Discord and our buddy Kale sent a message out saying that the NBA shut down their season, and that I turned the TV on, I heard that, and I watched TV probably for 2 hours straight, listening to the sports people talk about it. And then all day at work today, I had my phone on the radio, and all day I listened to stuff because I'm just like, this is a big moment, like, and I want to know what's going on. And all I could think about, the player in the NBA, Rudy Gobert, that's his name. He's the guy who ended up getting it first, and he was in a press release, and he went out and started touching all the microphones as a joke because he's like, you guys are being overly crazy about this. Look, it's fine. That is what reminds me of the people on Twitter and Discord and stuff like that who are just keyboard warriors saying, you're all making too big of a deal out of this. This is not a big deal. But apparently there's another player on their team who has it now, and it's Donovan Mitchell. And the teammates were telling the media that Rudy Gobert in the dressing room was still messing with teammates by going around and touching them and all their stuff. So now he's probably personally responsible for Donovan Mitchell getting it.
Yes.
And who knows, maybe Donovan Mitchell went and visited his grandmother in between games, and now she could die because of his stupidity.
Like, it's having the opinion that everyone's overreacting is the easy opinion to have because you're not thinking long term. You're not thinking of the other effects that are going to come into play here.
And I was listening to Good Show, shout out Good Show because I love Good Show. They were saying this morning that if at the very end nothing big comes of this and everyone's all crazy careful about it, the worst you can say is we were too careful.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe we didn't need to react that much. But that's a good situation because that means you still minimize the losses. The other side of it is if you're not careful and if you don't care and you still go out in public and you still do these things and you do spread it, is you're making this pandemic, which it's classified as now, last longer.
Absolutely.
So like if you want the NHL season to come back or the NBA season to come back or the baseball season to start, it's basically up to the public to look after their own crap.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like the government can't control what you do. Like if you're going to go out, like they can shut down the big events, which they should do.
Right.
I am totally agreed with that. But I mean, if you're going to go out and you're not going to care and you're whatever, then you're just part of the problem that's going to actually make this drag out longer than it needs to.
Yeah. I keep telling people I'd rather be viewed as someone who's panicked but prepared.
Yes.
Versus naive and unprepared.
Yes.
Because I don't want to be the person who is unprepared, so I don't care what people think of me now.
Yeah.
Like I've already been stocked up just because I'm that kind of person anyways. I've got like 3 things of mouthwash and like that's just what I do. I've got a kit in my car in case I crap myself and I need to change my clothes.
I can confirm
literally.
He's got a tote with like clothes and underwear and toilet paper and toothbrush and pills.
I'm over prepared for everything.
No, legit. Yeah.
So anyways, it's getting back to sports and hockey specifically. If you think about the Stanley Cup, what do you do with it? If the season's canceled, do you A, not award it to anyone, which seems like the logical choice. B, give it to the Boston Bruins because they have the most points this season.
It would be nobody.
I don't think anyone would really. I don't think the mass majority of people would want that. Or C, give it to the St. Louis Blues and allow them to retain the Stanley Cup from last year moving through into 2021. I don't agree with that one either, but it is an option, I guess. I would prefer there be no Stanley Cup winner. It's not something that you, and I tweeted this so early and someone commented and I really agreed with, or they replied, and I really agreed with the reply. The Stanley Cup is not something that you are awarded, it's something that you earn.
Right.
And if you can't go through the grueling process of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is the most grueling playoffs in any sport, you don't deserve the Stanley Cup.
And it sounds like if we do get a Stanley Cup final, and I really am doubtful at this point. Like I hope I'm wrong. I hope I can look back on this podcast maybe 3 weeks from now and be like, ooh, things look bad then, but I'm glad they worked out. I'm not sure. But Brian Burke was on and he just kept saying the same thing over and over and over again. He said even the way this gets resumed is if you can consider the event or the pandemic handled, like it's been dealt with.
Right.
So you already said there's not going to be a cure or a whatever for
there's
18 months.
There's not going to be a vaccine.
A vaccine.
If you're expecting a vaccine soon, it's not coming.
So basically it comes down to self-quarantine and being able to get the numbers down to a tolerable level where maybe you can have some games without fans.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. But like Brian Burke was saying, if all it takes is one person to catch it in the middle of a playoff, and that ruins the playoff for the two teams that are playing.
Yes.
Because both of those teams have to go into quarantine, both the players and the staff. So you could have a trainer that just picks it up sitting next to someone on the flight, or maybe he's doing something. Like, even if you limit the fans' access, there's still no guarantee that the team or the team staff aren't going to get inflicted. And like he said, if two teams are playing, maybe there's like a best of 4 or a best of 8 or whatever. If you have one player test positive or one staff member test positive, that's 14 days minimum that both of those teams now have to be quarantined.
Absolutely.
Which takes them out of the playoff.
Completely.
So like he was saying, it has to be dealt with 100%, which I just don't see.
It's not going to happen. I mean, there's options, but every option is a risky option. You could have, okay, so right now it's March, what's the date? 12th or whatever. Mm-hmm. In roughly a month, almost exactly, the playoffs are slated to start. Mm-hmm. So at that time, for 4 weeks from now, and this is still going on, but things are maybe getting a little bit better, you could say, okay, we can maybe start the playoffs, but we don't really have to end the regular season. There's 12 games left, or there's whatever average for every team. Let's just negate those teams, avoid them, and as the standings are now, we'll hold the playoffs based on the standings, and the matchups are already set, and we'll go from there. And instead of having home team advantage, have it done at a neutral site, have the players there well beforehand, confined basically, play the games with no fans, and play all games there with no fans and without any travel, and just have it like have it in one location.
Have them live in a bubble, basically.
Basically, have them live in a bubble, or reduce the time of the playoffs. So maybe you can't start in a month, and we're 6-7 weeks from now, or 8 weeks from now, or 2 months away, and you're probably around the second, third round of the playoffs. What would usually happen? Mm-hmm. Things are really under control by then, or looking pretty good, and you decide, okay, well, let's still have the playoffs, but let's have a single elimination. We'll still have the rounds, and we'll still have the matchups, but every game is a game 7, and maybe by the time you get the Stanley Cup final, you can maybe have a 7-game series or something like that. But that's something that all the owners and the teams would have to agree to. Mm-hmm. I don't see that happening, because I think people would look at that Stanley Cup winner and be like, okay, well, that wasn't a normal year. You don't really count. Mm-hmm. I'd still look at it and think, okay, well, that team won the Stanley Cup, because, I mean, a single game elimination, you know how exciting that would be for fans? Every game's a game 7, but and there's lots of ideas like that going around.
There's tons of them. Like they've asked their teams to get building dates for July, which opens up a can of worms, because player salaries end June 30th. Like July 1st is free agent. That's when contracts start their next year. So you have to look at how players get paid there. Like, so they'd have to rewrite their contracts, or at least put in a clause to explain how they would continue playing after the season technically ends. I don't know.
Players are still going to get paid. Technically, they get paid by a per game basis, right? Like their salary is split into, like if someone gets fined, if Matthew Tkachuk gets fined, he lets go of $27,000 for every game that he misses or whatever.
See, right now this is a big issue for the players, and they have to work it out, because right now they're not sure if the players are not going to not get paid, because right now if the regular season gets canceled, that's one thing, right? I think they could deal with that. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to start paying more money into escrow.
Yes.
And then when the next year comes, they're going to realize, because the salary cap is the 50-50 portion of the player's salary. That's what it is. It's 31 teams times 81.5. That's their portion. So if they lose the playoffs, which is the biggest moneymaker of all of it, then the cap next year could be anywhere down as low as 75 million they were talking about, which means they're going to have to put a special clause in so that teams can claw back a percentage of each player's salary. So like, say you're making $10 million a year, you're going to have to accept 9 million or 8.5, like 15% or whatever it is that a flat across the board every player is losing, to bring that number down to 75, because you can't just have 81.5 and then say it has to go down to 70 next year, which is, I think that's too low, maybe 75. You can't just expect teams to be able to buy out a whole bunch of players, because they're all in a salary trouble now.
That's a really interesting point to make, because that has a trickle effect as well. Not only are you trying to save money if you have to reduce your cap or whatever, and make decisions that way, but you're not going out and making huge signings for free agency. You're not doing all this stuff. There's so much uncertainty. Even if the NHL season gets canceled and it's announced next week that it's canceled, we're done, see you in 2020, 2021. Even the teams this summer in June or July 1st, free agency day, when that day comes, there's going to be teams still worried about what's going in on the next season or the season after. Like, there's so many unanswered questions.
That's what makes those signing bonuses so powerful. Like, look at Toronto Maple Leafs. All their young players are paid in signing bonus. That's upfront cash.
Yep.
And then it's $700,000 over the rest of the year. So obviously they're going to have to look, depending on, like, if this gets real bad, this is going to be a nightmare for the NHL, and it will be a nightmare for next season. It's going to cost the players a ton. It's going to cost the owners a ton.
There's no good solution.
Brian Burke was estimating between 100 and 150 million if we lose the season.
Loss for the league?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you take 150 million off the books projected, I mean, that's going to affect the cap next year. That's going to affect how much money you're playing in escrow.
I wonder if this is going to affect the Seattle timeline.
It already is, because they are even pushing back the release of their team name. It's going to be later now than thought.
Well, they've been doing that since freaking November, but
yeah, they said it's going to be like April now.
Yeah,
something.
Of course they just keep saying that. As far as the team entering the league, it'll still probably happen, but you have to think about the workers who are working on the arena as well. If they get quarantined or something for 14 days, I mean, there's projects there that probably take 30 or 40 people to do one thing.
Mark Cuban's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he's on like Shark Tank or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And he got a text message saying that their league was shutting down while he was sitting in the stands watching the game. And he's just like, what? And then the guy runs down and starts interviewing right away. And he actually gave a good interview and gave a good interview after. And he said, I'm worried about, our team. He said, I could care less when the next Dallas Mavericks basketball game is. And I'm looking after my wife. I'm looking after my kids. I'm looking after the team's family. He said, what about the guys that work concessions for minimum wage? What about these guys? What about these guys? Like, he's like, like the NBA players can go get their tests just like that because they're NBA players. What about all the minimum wage people that are in the arena? They're not going to get tests, especially down in the United States.
Apparently it costs like $7,500 or something to get tested. They're not going to pay $7,500 to get tested.
2 days ago, the United States tested 8 people in the entire country.
Yeah.
So you got this huge outbreak going on, and you test 8 people in one day in the entire country.
And China was doing like 200,000 a day.
Yeah, like, it's unbelievable.
I don't get it.
I
don't get it. I really
like. We're not going to get into it. It's just being handled so poorly in the States right now. Maybe now that stuff's happening, it seems like Tom Hanks getting sick was the best thing that could have happened. Because it's like a celebrity sick. Yeah, this must be getting real now.
Yeah, I mean, if Tom Hanks can get sick, then I can definitely get sick.
It's like, yeah, they're having a nightmare over in Italy, but that's over in Italy and that's not my problem. But Tom Hanks gets sick and now it's real.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of comments recently about how many good things China is doing, and they are doing a lot of good things. But someone tweeted out that they're giving a bunch of medical supplies to Italy and stuff. The truth is, Italy bought from China. Yeah. China didn't donate this stuff. Italy bought it from China.
And China is one of those countries that has the power to make their citizens do stuff too. Like, you're going into lockdown. You're not going to do this. Whatever hardships, you're going to deal with it, because that's how they're starting. Because China, things are looking better in China, but that's why, because
they're using those aggressive tactics.
Yes,
yeah, you're right.
And that's what Italy's doing now. And if we just live our lives like, I
like that noise.
Whatever. Like, it's going to be like that everywhere. So you have to, that's what they're saying. They're trying to have everyone bring the curve down.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that these games are being postponed, and hopefully other big events will follow it, like concerts and stuff like that.
It's all about personal responsibility. Like, you shouldn't have to have the government tell you to stay home if you're sick and you're supposed to be home, but you're still going out. Like, just stay home. And I mean, if in the United States specifically, if they go door to door and not allow people to leave their house, I mean, we all know how slack the gun laws are in the United States.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not going to happen in the United States. People won't allow it, literally. So I think it's up to the people in the United States and Canada and wherever to be responsible for your own actions or for your own, your own plans. If you have plans, maybe consider canceling them. Wash your hands like a ton.
Wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. Wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer. Just be completely thoughtful of what you're doing at all times. And I mean,
just try to help out in your own little way. That's all.
That's it. If everyone did that, we'll all make it.
Like I said, worst case scenario, you say you overreacted and you didn't need to do those things, but that's a good case scenario if you ask me, because that means things worked out.
Absolutely. Totally.
Okay. One thing I'll ask you here. Let's say that the NHL does not have enough time to come back and finish the season, but they still want to have a playoff round, which is what a lot of the talk on Hockey Central today was.
Yeah.
So right now, there are different ways of looking at who would make it. You look at the points standings, like how you normally, but you also look at points per games played, which in case Winnipeg would be out right now.
Yeah, I think you have to look at winning percentage.
So a lot of the people were saying that the NHL has been talking about having a 24-team playoff. So it's either the first 6 teams on each get a bye, and then you have a round, like a mini 3-game round robin with the lower teams, because they're saying, with 13, 14, 15 games left, there's plenty of room for teams to leapfrog. Like Florida could have passed Toronto. Like both of those teams were supposed to play tonight. Like with how close things are, they're saying if anyone's within a reasonable shot, which maybe is 24 teams,
totally
3-game series to find out who's the last 2 teams in, and then you start your playoff.
That's quite interesting, because that could slingshot future potential standings playoff requirement changes. Like, because Pierre LeBrun said the teams that make the top 3 in each conference, or the top whatever top 6 in each conference, get a break, while the bottom 2 wildcard seeds plus the 2 behind them have to play in a little round robin. And regardless of the coronavirus, he was talking about this like weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So if we did see something like that, which would basically be the same thing, and people loved it, I mean, we could potentially see that becoming a reality in the future if people loved it.
Like, think of teams that have a lot of their key players out on injury right now.
That's another thing.
They may be getting a break because we wouldn't have had those players back for the start of the playoffs. But maybe if this is extended until like the summer, which is what it could be based on how things are going, maybe they'll get some of those players to start coming back. Or what if you have teams like Carolina who traded players to get better for this year, and then there is no rest of the season, so they gave away part of their future for nothing.
Totally. Absolutely. We just had the trade deadline with all that stuff go down.
So a lot of teams made trades to make a go for it this year, and
like the Islanders.
It could end up being that there is no go to be had, and you traded for nothing because it's over now.
I never thought about that.
Like, there's so much to think about.
There's so many threads. Like this, it's kind of like a tree. The coronavirus, and then all the things that happen.
It's like a squid tentacle thing where its tentacles are getting everywhere now. Like, it's just, I don't know. I really hope they can. Like, the NHL is going to be on their phones like crazy, talking to the teams, talking to the union, talking to business partners. Like there's so many things about insurance. Like, is stuff going to be covered? And it sounds like a lot of it's not, because pandemics are not considered covered.
Yes, correct. The NHL does not have a cancellation insurance, as far as I know. What if they went to somewhere which has people, obviously, but still is secluded, like somewhere like Alaska, somewhere that does have arenas, but you can kind of create this little bit of bubble, or Northern Ontario, or somewhere where...
I'm thinking when this comes to fruition, or time to make this decision, I think there's not going to be too many places that you can just go to that will be safe.
Probably not.
Because, I mean, we know, based on the little bit of testing, how many cases there is so many more people that have this right now than is reported. There's just not enough tests, and there's not enough people getting tests.
Do you think it's financially worth for the NHL to build a small arena in the middle of nowhere?
Just like have people shipped out there,
have a hotel built or whatever facility.
It would never be done in time. You couldn't do it in like 2 months.
If the Chinese can build a hospital in 10 days that can house 5,000 people, the NHL can do it in 2 months in the middle of the woods.
The question is, if we have this, like, maybe they do like a 24-team play-in, but maybe there's not enough time to even do a best of 3, because they were saying that they expect one of the options was maybe a best of 3 to get in, and then best of 5 series after that. You don't even play 7 series until you get to the final.
I'm okay with that.
So what happens if there's not even time for that? It's just
single elimination.
Yeah, man,
I'm okay with that.
So do they get an asterisk next to their name?
No.
Or was just that's the year that the pandemic hit?
You're playing if it's a single elimination, aka Game 7. You're playing a game that could hypothetically happen anyway. So if you can't win that, then you're not going to win the Game 7, even if it did happen. So, I mean, you can't be upset if your team loses that single elimination game, because obviously they're the worst team.
For that night.
That's okay.
Because generally speaking, a one game does not determine the better hockey team.
That's up to the players. But, I mean, that's up to the players. The better team has to win.
Okay, so they're asking the players, speaking of the players, they're asking the players to stay by their teams right now.
And not go home to their families?
That's right.
Okay.
So you've got players that trade deadline just happened. They were just traded. They don't have a residence. So they've either got to stay with someone or they got to live in a hotel for who knows how long. This could be till the summer. You've got players from Europe who, would rather go home. But if they go home to Europe, they might not be able to get back because there's a travel ban being put into place. And who knows whether after, those 30 days, whether that will be lifted or not.
Yeah. I mean, I have a trip booked in June to go to the United States. And I mean, realistically, that's not going to happen now, which is really unfortunate. But you're right. There are players who aren't home, who aren't near their families, and who can't go home.
Mm-hmm. Like, don't you think it would be more comfortable for them to be with their families and be at their own home rather than, especially if they're one of the newer players to a team and they're just living in a hotel right now?
If you played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but you had a game at Edmonton and you were stuck in Edmonton and you were legally not allowed to fly, but you were allowed to rent a car and drive back to Toronto, would you do it? Or would you just stay in quarantine?
See, I would probably drive back because I think this is going to go on for a while.
I would too. I mean, that's the thing, right? This isn't something that's going to blow over in a week or 2 weeks. This is going to be an issue. Hockey, NBA, just outside of sports in the entire world, 2020 is the year of the coronavirus.
And like everyone right now is in NHL is laser focused on what they were doing. They were focusing on, it's the final stretch. We got to play hard. Like a lot of players don't even talk to their wives or whatever. It's just I'm focused on, playoffs are coming up. I'm getting in the zone. They're out of that zone now. Like they're not practicing with the team. They're not having team meetings. Like they are literally sent home and told not to go anywhere.
And if you do get sick or maybe you can't train or whatever, you're losing.
But that's what I mean. How do you train if some of the players will have their own little gyms in their house, like. A lot of them, I would assume, do.
You can't train at a communal gym because of the sweat and
you can't,
the risk.
You have no ice time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this goes on till, let's say, late June or early July, because, I mean, they are asking for building access in July, which the NBA is doing too. So you're going to have, like, a lot going on if that does happen. And another thing is do people lose interest?
No, I don't think so.
I think they'll come back too.
I think they'll be... It's
do you think there are markets in the States of teams that could be playoff teams where the baseball is more intriguing than hockey? Because normally baseball and hockey, the overlap is minimal. But if you're just leaving everything and they all come back up at the same time, which one are the fans going to go to?
The MLB season will be starting, so I don't think it would get much views at all.
But the MLB season's supposed to be starting in a few weeks.
Yeah, but if it's starting at the same time that the NHL playoffs are happening or the NBA playoffs are happening, man, no one's watching baseball.
That's what I would think, but I don't know. I don't know what the market's like down there.
I think the majority of people will be watching basketball first because it's the more popular sport. Too. More people in Canada would probably be watching hockey, just based on Canada. But I don't know. It's interesting though.
There's so much to it. And this is just the sport angle. Like it's unbelievable how far we've come since we did our podcast last Sunday. It's unbelievable how far we've come since like 8 o'clock last night, actually.
If we were here at this time yesterday, just from that point to now, an unbelievable amount of things have happened. So this time tomorrow, what's going to happen? Well, what more can happen?
Like we're filming a bonus podcast because this is theoretically unprecedented. They've never really 1919 or whatever they had a flu or whatever. But Sunday we would never think that
we're having this bonus.
Every sport league in North America and internationally are going to start shutting down, and we'll see what happens. Like no one has any answers. Like all you can do is ask questions.
If you have the coronavirus, if you get the coronavirus. And you're still well enough to film this podcast, I'm coming over.
Oh, we said the podcast must go on.
This show ain't stopping. If I get the coronavirus, I will not infect you with it, though. You can do the podcast by yourself. But I don't care if you have it.
You might have to start working from home.
I'm okay with that. I can work from home. And that's the thing. People can't. People who work hourly or people who maybe aren't on a salary or don't have a job where you literally cannot work from home. Maybe you're in customer service or whatever. How do those people survive? Most people, I would say, the majority of people live paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
So how are they going to make the money to be able to feed themselves, to pay rent? I mean, you can eat less, you can get by, you can eat cheaper things. That's probably okay. You can drink water instead of juice or soda or whatever. You can adjust your budget. But how are you going to pay rent? Like, there's no negotiation with rent or cell phone bills or student loan bills or credit card bills. Like, there's no negotiation there. So how are people going to live? Are tenant or our landlords and owners going to evict people because they can't pay their rent? Probably not. They would be on the news and
I don't know.
Be good. But that's well within their rights to be able to do that. Because if you're a landlord and that is your only income,
yep.
And now you're in the situation where you can't feed your family or you can't pay your bills. So I don't know. There's so many things that come with this. And
it's why it's going to be a little bit rougher down in the States than here, I think.
Yeah, I think that we will, as Canadians, get more support from our government financially.
Like we have a system in place. Like they've already pledged like $1 billion. And if you do have COVID-19, they do tell you to stay home.
Yes.
You will get automatic EI payments. They're waiving the time period that normally takes before it starts coming. So you'll continue getting paid right away while you're still sick at home. And a lot of that stuff just doesn't exist in the States. They don't really have that. Like you hear a lot of people saying, like, well, I can't afford to stay home from work. I'm going to work sick.
Which is part of the problem. Mm-hmm. People are going to work because they have to. They literally can't stay home.
That's right.
They have to take the risk of infecting other people because they'll die either way. Like if they stay home, they can't feed themselves. They can't whatever. If they go, at least they can make money and try to survive. Mm-hmm. Like it kind of shines light on our whole society in general and the way that we kind of do things. There's no equal living. Like over in Finland and places like that, everything's a little bit more equal. You don't have as many poor or so many rich. Mm-hmm. It's more of an equal society, where here it's all over the place.
Yeah, like places like Canada, people, doesn't matter how much money you believe. Say I make, $350,000, you make 20. I still agree that you deserve the same healthcare as I do. And that's why our system kind of works. Like, it's not the perfect system, but
yes,
they don't even have that down in the States where it's, well, why should I be paying for you? You can do better in your life and pay for yourself.
And here in Canada, we have family doctors. And if you made $350,000 and I made $20,000, we would have the same level of rights to have a family doctor. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Yeah. You can't pay extra to get a family doctor.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So that system is really beneficial for us Canadians. If I was an American without health insurance or without anything, I would be really concerned. And I'm very thankful that I am Canadian and that I do live in this country. And I feel bad for the people who aren't as lucky or who don't have the same coverage or opportunities.
Yeah.
And I mean, that goes with every profession. Like, it doesn't matter what your profession is. You're probably going to be affected by this virus. I mean, I mean literally infected, but affected by this virus some way or another. If you have a company that's travel-based, your company is probably going to suffer.
If you have investments, the stock market's been crumbling.
Yeah,
it will affect everybody one way or another.
If you work for a company that primarily makes its income from shipping, and they don't allow things to be shipped anymore, how are you going to make your income? Like this, there's so many branches on this tree, this coronavirus tree.
Which is why it's important that you look after yourself. Don't go to big events. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
The thing is, it's true, and it's not a big task to ask.
No.
It's kind of things that you should be doing anyway.
Just chill out while this is going on.
If you take a poop, wash your hands.
Yeah.
If you make some pee, wash your hands.
Don't go to the 20,000 capacity Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks to be out $400, but whatever.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Just use your head. Be self-aware and take care of yourself.
So we'll keep an eye on this.
I mean, as far as this podcast goes,
I can't believe it's gone this far since Sunday. I can't say that enough.
If we're on week 4 of this, in 4 weeks from now, just hypothetically say that this is Sunday. 4 weeks from now, if nothing's changed, we can't sit here and have obviously the same conversation.
No, it's going to be interesting. And that's what a lot of the people, when I was listening to the radio station all day, were talking about. They were like, what are we going to do for the next...
The NHL Network I was listening to on my way home from work today, and he said, I just want to thank everyone for listening the entire year, this entire season, whatever. I completely understand that there's not a reason to listen to me anymore or to listen to this station. Why would you until things get back underway? So I just really appreciate you guys listening. And you know what? I'll see you next season, potentially. I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. I mean, luckily for me, on the Post Productions channel, I've diversified it a little bit now, and it's not just hockey related. So like, I am not worried about myself and not being able to produce content. I'll still be able to. We might have to switch up this podcast a little bit and talk about more regular things, and we'll obviously keep doing the coronavirus updates and stuff. But as far as like hockey talk or NHL talk, there just isn't going to be any.
No.
So, I mean, it's tough, but we can do other fun things and whatnot. I'm not worried about not being able to make content, but yeah.
So if you have suggestions about what you'd like to see, assuming 2-3 weeks from now we're still dealing with this and there's nothing going on in sports, period.
Yeah.
Leave a comment on YouTube or write us an email or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's crazy.
It's wild. I guess we'll take it from here. People can leave their predictions down below in the comment section of how they think this is going to play out. Is there going to be an NHL season?
One thing I will say is it's okay to be disappointed or upset over this answer.
Absolutely.
Like, you can be mad. It's okay to be mad. And that's what a lot of people have been saying, that, sports are a release or an out for some people. Like, maybe your life is crap, but, watching hockey is one of the few things you enjoy doing. And now that that's gone, you're angry and you're upset. Like, that's totally fine. Like, I think they did the right thing, and I stand by it 100%, but I totally get that people aren't going to like this. I mean, I don't like this. Like, I'm not happy that there's not hockey on. I'm not happy that, what am I going to listen to for sports radio now when there's literally nothing anywhere to talk about? Like, all those people are in the same boat. So, don't let people tell you that you're wrong to feel a certain way, but I'm not saying that's the same as being the people who are saying this is not a big deal and you are overreacting. I think that's two different groups of people.
Totally. And if you get quarantined, or if your job won't allow you to come to work for a month or 2 months or whatever, maybe you have a lot of free time on your hands or something like that. I mean, man, utilize your time. Like, pick up a new hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Build some models or learn about cameras and video and I mean, there's so many things that you can do with your time other than just sit and watch Netflix for 18 hours a day or whatever. I mean, I wasted the majority of my 20s doing absolutely nothing with my life other than playing games and trying to get by. And looking back, I would have spent so much more time learning to do things like getting better guitar, maybe learning a new language or something like that. Like, so if I could offer any advice to anyone younger than me, and I'm not that old, but utilize your time. Don't waste your time. If you've got free time, try and be productive, or at least for some of it. But anyways, that's all I got to say.
All right. So we'll wrap this up. Bonus episode 102. We'll come back at you on Sunday. Hopefully we'll have some things to talk about.
Hopefully.
So it might be a little shorter than normal. I know we say that a lot, but if there's literally nothing going on, then chances are we'll give you the update and talk about a couple things. And
I guess there won't be any highlight videos from this podcast.
There'll be no highlight videos.
This is just one big conversation.
One big conversation, which it was intended to be. So.
And the highlight video that you posted, I think yesterday or the day before,
is now relevant.
Is now completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. But thanks guys for listening and watching. Appreciate it.
Wrap it up.
Oh, snap. I'm the rapper. Okay. So
I thought you were going to wrap it up there. I was like, man, he's on top of it. I love it.
No, I forgot. I'm going to be posting some videos on Post Productions on YouTube tonight. Possibly 2 videos. I'm really trying to get a membership video edited to get out for the members. But otherwise, there'll be, I think, at least one tonight, maybe 2. Tomorrow, there's probably going to be 1 or 2. And then Saturday, I've got 1 planned. And Sunday, I have 1 or 2 planned. So in the next 3 or 4 days, there should be at least between 4 and 8 videos coming up. So if you're not subscribed over there, I'd love it if you could go hit the old subscribe button, hit that bell as well. If you guys want to save some money on jerseys, maybe you're not going on vacation now and you got a little extra spending money, partnered with coolhockey.com. So if you go to coolhockey.com/post-to-post, and you have to go there first. So go to coolhockey.com/post-to-post, go there first, and then choose the jersey you want, add it to your cart. And then once you're in your cart, use code post-to-post and save big. And I mean, I could plug the SeatGeek code, but there's not really a lot of people buying tickets to go to concerts and games and stuff, so I'll probably leave that one out of this one. But
it's a good code to have. Put it in your back pocket. Don't use it right now.
Yeah, put the post-to-post SeatGeek code in your back pocket. All right, guys, thanks for listening, watching. Stay safe out there, and wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. We'll catch you Sunday for episode 103. Adios.